Welcome to the Call to Meat Scotland podcast, where we bring you the latest insights from across the Scottish red meat sector, from the public body that works on its behalf. I'm Claire Taylor, your host for today's episode. Join us as we dive into market trends, brand communications and industry development projects in relation to Scotland's red meat sector, featuring experts, guests, farmers and stakeholders. Together we'll explore the key facts and perspectives shaping our sector, keeping you informed and engaged with the ever-evolving landscape of the red meat industry. In today's episode, we're bringing you the latest from Anuga 2025, the world's largest food and beverage trade fair, and a global stage to showcase Scotch beef, lamb and specially selected pork at their very best. The event is held in Cologne, Germany from the 4th to the 8th of October, and of more than 170,000 visitors from nearly 200 countries in attendance, it's a huge opportunity for Scottish exporters to reconnect with buyers, build new relationships and open doors to fresh markets. QMS is back this year following the huge success of Anuga 2023, which sparked around £22.9 million in new export business opportunities. Before we hear from Kate Rowell and Cabinet Secretary Mairi Gougeon about how the event unfolded, I caught up with Tom Gibson, Director of Market Development at QMS, a few days before him and the team headed for Germany, to hear what goes into planning such a huge showcase, what to expect, and why trade fairs like Anuga and Cial in Paris play such a significant part in Scotland's farming calendar. Tom, it's great to have you back on the podcast. Last time we spoke, of course, it just been Cial in Paris. We're a year on, we're gearing up for Anuga, and we're having this conversation as you are about to get on the plane in a couple of days and head to the event. So just to really set the scene a little bit about what's ahead in the next few days, Tom.
Hi Claire, thanks for having me back on. Yeah, we're heading off to Anuga. We're flying out 6 o'clock Thursday morning. So we have the stand builders in the site at Cologne just now, getting the stand all built. We will go in Thursday. The show starts Saturday to Wednesday. And we have a whole host of people coming out with us to join us on the stand, our main exporters, Scottish Government, Cabinet Secretary, etc. So we probably have about 30 people coming out onto the stand with us, and as you know, we spoke about Cial the last time. This is the biggest food trade show in Europe, so one year it's in Cologne and then that alternates with Cial in Paris. So massive show. I think there's 120,000 people come along over the space of the show, and we are in Hall 6, which is the sort of main meat hall or that's at the show, but it is just massive. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. So it's a full-on couple of days, but it's a great couple of days as well.
Because it's 4 days for the actual show, but you've just told me before we started recording, the stand's been being built for 6 days, and we've just had a conversation about the idea there's going to be thousands of exhibitors coming and all that product that's having to get past customs, get into the show. Like we did this last year, and I think people were fascinated by the prep that goes into it. So what kind of level of prep is happening on these stands, and what products are coming over for this showcase, Tom?
The stand structure is what's getting pulled together just now. So we have we designed a new stand a couple of years back, and we used that all that kit gets held in Poland. Because of the challenges of Brexit, it's much easier now for us to keep that in Europe and take it to the shows every year. Actually getting, some of the equipment and some of the bits and pieces that we take over with us really is a bit of a nightmare, because we've got to do customs declarations for everything. We've got to do country of origin for every single thing we send over. So it makes it a lot easier to keep that in Poland, and then we just truck it down from there, and that would have trucked down on Sunday night, Monday morning to the show. So we've got a set of about 6 stand builders that just building that just now. The stand that we've got is, because our sort of main strategy is to make Scotland the home for the choice for premium red meat, and we have a real sort of premium look and feel stand that reflects that main ambition. So the stand will be getting built this week. We will drop in with the chefs and ourselves. So we've got 2 chefs out with us and 2 kitchen students. We've got a couple of students from Fife College who come in, and it's a great experience for them to come along with us as well and help out with the chefs in the kitchen. It's Scott and Edie, our chefs, who are lecturers at Fife College, and both of them have worked in numerous restaurants over the years as well. Absolutely fabulous. The quality of the food that they produce is sensational. We've got some beef going over. That should be going into Europe. Should have went in yesterday, and then it'll get delivered into the show on Friday. So we've got some beef, we've got some lamb, and we've got pork going over there as well. So that is the kind of main nervousness for me about just making sure that gets in through customs, and there's always challenges. So once we get that in, it'll make it a little bit easier and take a wee bit of the pressure off. But then it's just the military operation to get it into the site, because as you say, we've got something like 7,000 people or 7,000 companies there at the size of the show. They all need to get product in. We've basically got Friday to get everything in. So you do it all on the app now. There's a navigation app that allows you to book your time slot and record your deliveries, and they try and do it as best as possible, but people's plans go out the window, people are late delivering, etc. So we just need to go with the flow for the first couple of days. We'll have a bit of fun, but we'll get there in the end.
I love asking you about this because we always see the finished product, the perfect imagery and all the conversations, but the actual work that goes in behind the scenes, I just think that is absolutely fascinating. 7,000 companies, all this product, you've got stands in Poland, you've got customs checkout all coming in, so it's just so interesting hearing it all coming together. Tom, you're saying you're expecting around 120,000 people to come along, and obviously by the time this goes out, we'll actually have those figures, and we'll have spoken to different people that have been to Anuga, and they can share a little bit about those final figures. You've got 30 people going with you. You've mentioned you've got chefs, you've got students, you've got lecturers, the cabinet secretaries going out. So what are the expectations over those few days, and what are the sort of responsibilities of the group that you're taking out?
I think where we're currently at in terms of red meat supply just now, we know through the whole Meeting Our Potential campaign that we've been running throughout the summer that we have a challenge in cattle numbers at the minute, and we're trying to do our best to encourage our producers just to add another couple of numbers for their cattle herds, just to try and help support those numbers. But the big challenge across Europe and the rest of the world is cattle numbers are dwindling, so we don't have an endless supply. So a lot of that just now is, and I think what's really interesting, Claire, when you go over to Anuga and Sial and you meet some of the customers that have been customers of our Scottish companies sometimes for 50 years. A lot of them are family businesses. They might be supplying into retail, they might be in Europe, or they might be supplying into sort of food service and restaurants or butcher shops. And just meeting some of those suppliers or some of those customers with our suppliers, I think that's really nice to see how those relationships have just grown over the years and the sort of volumes that they've taken. These organisations and these companies are very dedicated to the quality of the product that they can get from Scotland, so that's really, really good. And as I say, those relationships have been built on decades, a lot of them, but we still get the new odd customer coming on stand, someone looking for new supply, or someone opening new restaurants or new stores, and coming on to speak to our processors and exporters, maybe to sort of foster and build some new relationships as well.
I remember last year when we spoke, you talked about, I think it was Dubai, you were looking at kind of lamb going into Dubai markets. You said this is really one of the biggest world fairs for food and beverages in the world, but it's Europe focused. Are there a lot of international buyers further outside Europe that you're expecting to meet over the days you're there?
You will always get international buyers coming over from outside the EU. I would say probably Gulf food is more likely to get that. That feels like more of a sort of people coming in from all over the world to look at that. You'd get a lot of people from certainly America coming over to Dubai. You certainly get a lot of the Middle East companies. You get the Indian subcontinent. You get a lot of visitors from there as well. So each show is different. Each show gives you your challenges. But yeah, this one would certainly be more EU focused, and that is our main market.
So of course I've interrupted you there, Tom. I was going to say Cabinet Secretary being there, of course she was in Seattle last year as well. What does that add to the event, having her there, having these conversations along with QMS?
I think we're in a fairly privileged position in Scotland. We do have really good access to Scottish Government and members of Cabinet like Ms Gougeon coming over with us, and George Burgess, Director of Food and Drink and the Scottish Government, will be over with us as well. I think there's two benefits there. It's them understanding, getting the time, the quality time for a couple of days to speak to our processors and exporters to understand the challenges that they've got as market conditions change. And it's also sort of presenting a united front to some of our customers in Europe to let them understand that, we have the support of the Scottish Government teams along with our processors and QMS, so we can actually go out there and join forces to promote our Scottish and Scotch products as best we can.
And just thinking about, you've mentioned already, Tom, about sort of declining beef numbers, and that is, Brazil, the US, China. We're hearing figures everywhere that these numbers are declining, but also geopolitically, there's been so much change. We've had Trump and tariffs, and there's so many conversations now in this space that it's quite interesting to have an event when the world seems quite divided at this time, but actually having an event like this, how important is it, like you say, putting on a united front with Scotland, but also uniting those countries globally and those supply chains? I mean, how significant is that given the backdrop of what we've had in the last few months?
I think it's really, really important because for us, the European market, and specifically the European market here, just offers us so many possibilities. It's all really about carcass balance, and as you know, the European market customers are looking potentially for some different cuts that we may not sell here. So we certainly have that advantage there. We can get certain products across to the European markets. We still have sort of France, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Belgium as our main export countries, our target countries. We have great relationships with a lot of buyers in those markets, and they will remain strong. 10% of our product is exported in terms of beef, but most of that, 90% of that, goes to the EU. Probably 30% of the lamb we produce is exported again, but more than 90% of that is going to the EU. So it becomes an incredibly important market for us, and it's just a great opportunity, because the good thing about this show is we have pretty much everyone in the trade under the one roof over the space of those sort of 4 or 5 days of the show. So it gives our exporters a great opportunity to meet, a large percentage of their customer base in these export markets under the one roof, and we can host them on the stand, and we can do samplings for them of maybe different products that they've not tried before, and it just means that everyone's there together from a Scottish Government, Scottish food and drink point of view, from the red meat side of things, and we have a lot of our customers under the one roof as well. So it gives us a great opportunity to go out and speak to them and see what challenges they have, and potentially look at increasing sort of the level of business that we can do with them.
And Tom, you were mentioning earlier where you're really positioning QMS at this event is that premium market, and really positioning it that. What is the reaction you're getting ahead of the event? Is there a lot of people that have been in touch? You've talked about the continuity of relationships and people that have been buying for 50, 60 years, family businesses. But what sort of demand is there for the products that we're producing here?
I think there's massive demand, to be fair, Claire. We could sell a lot more than we currently do if we had the product there. There's, we will, every couple of weeks we'll get another query from someone in an EU market looking for product, but we just don't have the volumes to go around to take up all of those opportunities. So I think a lot of it just now for us is continuity of supply and continuity of relationships with our current customers, people that have been supporters of Scotch beef, lamb and specially selected pork over a number of years, and I think we have our supply chains into these companies that are all proven, tried, tested. There's trucks go over from Scotland on a weekly basis, be it over to Holland on the ferry or through the Channel Tunnel. So yeah, I think probably our focus is continuity of supply with those customers that we have, and maybe expanding those at the minute would probably be a fairer way to do it.
And of course, for you on a personal level, Tom, this is not your first time at Anuga. So what are you looking forward to going back, and what's the sort of highlight for you?
I think now I've been with QMS 7 years, so I've probably done about 5 of these big European trade shows. We obviously had 1 or 2 years off around about COVID time when the shows didn't take place. So we now know a lot of these European customers from the Scottish companies. It's also great to spend some time with our processors. You know, we've got a couple of days over at the show with each of them just to hear what's new in their business. We will speak to them regularly, of course, but you do have a bit more quality time with them when we've got a couple of days over there. But I think just meeting some of the customers that you know we now have relationships with. We've got some people from Holland coming over to see us. Sarah and myself were over there doing a Scotch beef demonstration and lunch with them a couple of weeks back. So we'll see people like that. And yeah, it's just a really, really nice event. I always say it's the busiest week of the year. It's the hardest week of the year, but it's also the best week of the year because there's just so much going on. And listen, we have a bit of fun. It's really hard work, but we have a bit of fun as well, and everyone's really up for it.
Wonderful. Well, Tom, we are about to hear from Kate and then the Cabinet Secretary about how the event has gone down. So thank you so much for giving us that flavour, that teaser of what's to come, and wishing you all the best and enjoy the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire.
Let's fast forward and hear how the event went down. And I caught up with Kate Rowell, who has had a busy few days on the QMS stand. Kate, thank you so much for joining us back on the podcast. And you're pretty much off a plane from Anuga as of last night. So thank you for joining us. And it'd be great to hear a little bit about what's been happening with you over the last jam-packed few days. What are your sort of early reflections?
Yeah, just got back last night, Claire. So it's been an absolutely hectic few days, as it always is at Anuga. It was just so busy, and it's really, really good to get out there and just see what's going on in the rest of the world. We had processors with us and the Cabinet Secretary, of course, who came out as well. So the amount of business that looked like it was being done was phenomenal. Although one of the biggest issues we have as a planet, as a globe, is that there is not enough protein to go around, and particularly beef is in really short supply. So there was a lot of customers who came onto the stand who were after beef, and we just don't have enough to service all the people who want to buy the premium end Scotch beef that we can supply.
That's so interesting. I did wonder if that would be a big conversation over the few days. What were some of the people coming on in terms of what countries were they coming from? What were their reflections?
Well, we had people come on from all over the EU, Sardinia, Malta. There were Africans came on. We actually had a chap who came on very little English, and he sort of said hello, and then he held up his phone towards us and he said, "My friend." And his friend was actually in Syria and was doing this by FaceTime. So he was taking his friend on the phone round the different stands so that the friend could ask if there was supply that he could get from various different places. So he came onto our stand, and unfortunately we can't send anything to Syria. So even if we had lots, we couldn't send it. There's export health certificate reasons that it can't go there. Not just Syria, lots of countries the export health certificates aren't there for. But yeah, so that was an experience that none of us had ever had before, a sort of virtual meeting like that.
Oh, and when you actually look at the number of countries that are attending, so I think it was saying there was over 110 countries represented, 8,000 exhibitors across the few days as well. You're going to obviously, and at a time where there's so many conversations happening globally, geopolitical tensions, tariffs, I bet you must just be overwhelmed by the conversations that you're hearing, because you're obviously getting out of Scotland and suddenly getting into the getting into the thick of everything that's going on. I mean, what are the main activities that you're sort of involved in, and what's the kind of the key thing for you over these few days, Kate?
So obviously I'm there as QMS, so we have processors who are there to actually sell the product, and that's why we have our stand. But the sort of secondary benefit for myself is to get out there and network with our contemporaries from around the world and to find out what's going on. So we had meetings with someone from USDA, America. We had meetings with Uruguay. We had joint meetings with the levy bodies from the other parts of the UK, so England, Wales and Northern Ireland. We hosted on our stand a meeting between the Northern Irish, Welsh and our own Cabinet Secretary just for half an hour so that they could catch up, because they were all out there. And it was actually the first time in, I think, 18 months that they'd met in person, because they were all, they were just all there. So it's that sort of thing that's really, really important, and just hearing the conversations from around the world. So, for example, in America, they're really, really struggling at the minute because there's a parasite called screwworm, which has come up from Mexico. So they've actually shut their border to any Mexican beef. So that means that their beef supply is decreased, obviously, because they take quite a lot. And also the tariffs that President Trump has put on the Brazil exports mean that they've stopped bringing in Brazilian beef to America. So that means that America are really, really struggling to get enough supply. So they're out there basically hoovering up anything they can get to get into America, because the consumer demand has not dropped. So it's just interesting hearing these huge macro level conversations, but that do affect us. They definitely do affect us, because if, for example, Australian beef is all going to America, it's not coming to the UK, so therefore it's not having an effect on our market. So at the moment, and these things can change so quickly at the drop of a hat. So it's just really interesting to get that bigger picture.
And of course, we're really positioning Scotland in those premium, those quality markets. Where does it sit in the conversations at a place like Anuga? How does it sort of compare with some of the other stands, some of the other conversations?
So yeah, we really try to be as premium as possible. We're never going to be a commodity supplier. We want to position in that premium market, and those are the people that are coming onto our stands. They want really top quality product. We give out some awards every year to importers who've done a really good job for our processors, and one of them was saying to me, it was a lady from the Netherlands, and she said when she gets people to take Scotch, so she had used Irish a lot, but when she can convince her food service clients to take Scotch, she says they never go back, and they never even ask about the price after that. Once they've got that better quality product, that's what they want to stick with. So it's really good to hear stories like that, because, at home, when you're just in Scotland, you sometimes lose sight of that bigger picture and how good we actually are at producing premium red meat.
Oh, it must be so good to get that feedback. And you saying there, being part of those macro level conversations, of course, Kate, it doesn't stop for you here. You're about to head off to the World Meat Congress in Brazil at the end of October. And I know we touched on it in the last episode, so it'll be really great to get you back on in early November. You'll be fed up talking to me, but we want to hear from you with some of those conversations. And it'll be so interesting, obviously, being in Brazil at a time when the COP coming up as well. But it'll be fascinating to get you back on the programme. But I know you're off to London just now. You're very busy in between lots of meetings, but thanks so much for sharing a bit about Anuga.
No problem, and I'll definitely come back with lots of stories from Brazil, I'm sure.
Thanks, Kate. Now we head over to Anuga to hear from Cabinet Secretary Mairi Gougeon, who's been out in Germany with the team, and she spoke to QMS's Laura Clark about why Anuga is a must-attend for the Scottish Government.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Clark, the Communications Manager at Quality Meat Scotland, and today, very excitingly, I am joined by Mairi Gougeon, MSP, Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs, Land Reform and Islands, coming live from Anuga. So Anuga is one of the world's biggest food trade shows, and QMS have got a fantastic stand there. So Mairi, how is it and what is it like at Anuga?
It's amazing. I mean, you won't be able to see too much behind me, but honestly, it's such a massive, strong people. We're in the meat hall at the moment, so very strong smells of meat everywhere. So it's actually really nice. But yeah, honestly, the crowds that come to the show, it just never ceases to amaze me, just the scale of how big this is. Like I say, this is one meat hall, whereas there's pretty much massive halls for every type of food you can imagine. So yeah, it's exciting to be back and great to be here with QMS.
Amazing. And what has been your impression of the Scottish presence and the impact of showcasing our red meat sector on this global huge stage, as you said?
Well, it's great because especially when you look around some of the other stalls that are behind me in some of the stands. So as an example, we have Brazil just across. We have some of the really big beef producing countries. And it's amazing to see that Scotland, of course, stands out really well against that. I mean, because that's the thing, while we can't ever and wouldn't want to compete in terms of the quantity that can be produced by some of those countries, it's the quality that stands out. And certainly from the people that have come past, that I've spoken to at the QMS stand as well. I think that's what really makes the Scotch brand is really well recognised, I think, because of the quality, because of everything that the brand means in terms of animal health and welfare credentials, wider sustainability points. So, yeah, there's certainly no shortage of demand anyway.
Amazing. And why is it important for you as Cabinet Secretary to be there in person supporting Team Scotland and our red meat exporters?
Oh, I think it's important for a number of different reasons. First of all, it's a great chance for me to catch up with our processors and the Scottish businesses that are on the stand. And it can sound a bit strange because you think, yeah, of course you can visit people back in Scotland, but I think having everybody in the one place, it's good just being able to spend that time, hear what the challenges are that different businesses are facing as well. And then it's also a great opportunity to get to speak to some of the customers that are coming to the stand, some of the exporters, hearing about some of those relationships that exist, as well as, I think, the wider point of really just getting to see who else is here, what it's like for everyone else in this wider global market that we operate in. So, it's been excellent to do that. And it's also been a chance for me to catch up with ministers.
Amazing. And I've seen some pictures of some of the samples of food on the stand as well. So that's a good bonus.
It is a good bonus. I have to say that's definitely one of the highlights, because that's the thing. It's the QMS team here, but they've got an amazing team of chefs. And honestly, some of the food that they're bringing out here for the different customers and people that are coming to the stand, oh yeah, it's just world class. It's amazing.
Amazing. Balancing food production and environmental goals continue to be a hot topic. How is the Scottish Government helping farmers achieve both, particularly in the red meat sector?
I think I've always been really keen that, especially when talking about it, I don't see it as an either or. And I think that, well, generally in politics these days, everything can be portrayed in a very black and white way. But we've been clear in our vision for agriculture that it's not about, working for climate or nature or producing foods. It's about making sure we have resilient farming businesses long into the future. And doing that means doing what we can to lower emissions, enhancing nature, and all of that helps with food production. So again, it's not about one or the other. It's about how all of that works together. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Amazing. That's great. And maybe just looking back over your time as Cabinet Secretary, what stands out to you as a key achievement or proudest moment in supporting Scotland's food and farming industry?
Oh, that's a really big question. And it's, I don't know, it's really difficult. I think that we're still in a period of transition just now. So I think some of the things are, at least I would like to think I've helped to do, is we've taken through the legislation to establish the new 4-tier framework of support. So while we're not quite completed that transition, I think that, we're well on our way through it. And I think it's just been trying to keep that everything running steady over the course of this past while. Because you think what we've faced since I was first appointed as Cabinet Secretary, we were still in the middle of a pandemic. We'd left the EU. There's been the illegal invasion of Ukraine. It just feels like it's been crisis after crisis after crisis. So I think hopefully by being able to maintain the support that we have for the industry, hopefully that's helped. And as I say, trying to position us so that we're well set up for the future too, so that we have a flexible framework of support that we can adapt as needed into the future. It's been a really busy few years, but I'd say definitely those are probably some of the highlights of it, I'd say.
Amazing. And is there anything else you want to update us on from Anuga?
Oh, I think that's mainly it. I mean, again, I've got more meetings lined up this afternoon. I'm looking forward to just getting out and, I'll be meeting with Welsh colleagues soon as well, hearing how things are going with them. But yeah, it's just been fantastic to be here.
To round off the episode, we catch up with Iain Macdonald, who shares what's happening across global markets where demand for meat continues to rise, but global supply is tightening, and what that means for the UK. Iain, welcome back to the podcast. We are talking all things Anuga today. You've not been over in Anuga, but I know you're going to have a busy few weeks ahead, probably evaluating and assessing some of the conversations, the data and the impact of what's happened. And just really, what is the importance of Anuga to QMS and to Scotland's red meat industry?
I guess it's just a brilliant showcase for our sector. We've got our processors across there, and they're meeting with importers and buyers from, I guess, Europe, but not even countries further afield, because it's such a large hub for anyone that's trading meat, really. So yeah, brilliant showcase and a good chance to meet customers, new and old.
We spoke to Kate at the top of the podcast, and she was saying a lot of the big discussions throughout the few days has been around rising demand for meat, for beef, but global short supply. And she highlighted particularly places like America, who are really looking and demanding beef. I mean, how is this impacting the UK? What are some of the big picture conversations that you're hearing?
Yeah, so if you look at kind of global supply and demand for beef, USDA forecasts they're sort of fairly stable, but within that's where you see what's driving things, and there's major imbalances in a number of countries. US is probably the main one. They've seen their herd decline hugely in the last 5 years or so. 2 years of really bad droughts, decline in cows, and they're really feeling the pinch now in supply and just looking everywhere for beef. And then you've got their trade policy, which is forced up tariffs. Brazil, probably the main one. They've seen a large influx in beef from Brazil in the last 2-3 years, and that tariff is now up to 76% compared to 26%, because there is a tariff free quota, but that is a limited amount of volume and it gets used up by about February. So Brazil has been kind of just paying the full tariff, and then that tariff has gone from 26 to 76%. So yeah, they've been looking elsewhere, and yeah, so a kind of volatile year really.
Well, here in Australia, it's been really interesting. Lots of conferences I've been at recently, a lot of talks on the free trade agreement with the UK and just how great it is for business here, really pushing for producers to take advantage of obviously declining beef numbers and I guess those increasing gaps. Some of the conversations you're having, I mean, is it really Australia that you're seeing positioning itself for the kind of to shore up some of the kind of gaps that we're going to have, or are there other countries knocking on the door? What are some of the things that you're seeing?
So yeah, looking at Australia first, they're kind of at the sort of top of their production cycle. They've seen large increase in production in the last 3-4 years, and there's always a cycle in Australia driven by weather. They've had good weather, so they've got lots of product available, and they're kind of almost bailing out the world at the moment. There's a lot going into America because of that issue with Brazil. And we have seen in the UK trade data large increases in imports from Australia this year. But it's not just Australia. We've seen those increases from more stuff is arriving from Brazil, from Uruguay and New Zealand as well. And obviously Australia and New Zealand have very favourable trade deals with the UK following the free trade agreements which entered force in May 2023. We've really seen that supply ramp up this year when our market prices surged and hit the volume of demand, and I guess it would be the more price sensitive businesses probably in that kind of food service sector really look into Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, Uruguay for competitively priced products.
And going back to exports for a moment, and just, I guess, thinking back to Anuga and events like CL and the importance of those conversations with our European markets, and really about securing outlets for those cuts that don't have a home in the UK, and just really the importance, I guess, from yourself on underpinning carcass balance and why this is so important a market for us.
Yeah, I think because we in the meat industry, it's a very low margin business. So those I guess higher value routes into places like Europe, and then at the lower end of the value scale, the sort of fifth quarter products into places like Africa, where that you can get higher prices in the home market. That really supports that overall value of the carcass and helps the processors to make protect that very small margin. And it's really vital in a year like this year when they saw that huge change in prices. That's when they can get really squeezed when they're paying a much higher price for the cattle, and it takes a lot longer for them to pass through that price onto their customers.
And Iain, before we come back closer to home and have a chat about some of the domestic markets, I know you're about to head off to the World Meat Congress in Brazil, and obviously Kate's heading off there as well. Could you share a little bit about what you're going to be doing out there, some of the conversations you're expecting to have and what you're looking forward to? Yeah,
so World Meat Congress is, I guess it's a sort of 3-4 day conference, so I imagine there'll be lots of fascinating presentations from what's going on in the markets to things like nutrition, and I guess there'll be some stuff on production as well, and some of that kind of advances in productivity. And I guess the highlight I'm expecting to be a visit to a Brazilian ranch on the final day, that will be really fascinating to see.
And different to Anuga, this of course it's a meat congress, where of course with Anuga it's a world trade and food and beverage fair. I mean, how many countries or numbers are expected at the congress, and how significant is it as an event in, I guess, the meat calendar, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so they before COVID, it was an event that happened every 2 years, and you'd get representation from across the world, from the kind of major producer organisations and some of the sort of major processing companies as well. So, because it's Brazil, I imagine there won't be as many people travelling from Europe, but there will be a lot of Latin American representation there. So it'll be fascinating to discuss with them markets and hear about all their production issues and challenges.
And Iain, just bringing it back closer to home, if you can share a little bit about what's been happening with the beef and lamb and the pork markets here in Scotland, that would be great.
Yes, probably not too much of a difference to previous appearances on the podcast this year. Generally positive situation for producers, considerably higher prices than last year, roughly 25% for cattle, for sheep maybe 10 to 15%. Store prices, even stronger increases. I think I was looking at store prices, and for a sort of yearling steers, you might be getting £2,000 now compared to about $1,400 last year, which is that's just a ginormous increase, isn't it? Yeah, thinking that in terms of the numbers, that's huge. So surely that should be generating a lot of confidence. There's obviously a lot of other issues on farm other than just the price you're getting for the animals, but hopefully that confidence can maybe help turn around that decline we've seen in the herd in recent years.
Amazing. Well, Iain, take lots of notes when you're at this Brazilian ranch. I'm sure you've now mentioned it, so everyone will want to hear about it when we next get you back on the podcast. But really good to speak to you. Good luck with your upcoming travel, and thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quality Meat Scotland podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen for more monthly episodes as we continue to explore the vital topics affecting the red meat industry. If you want to stay updated with the latest news in our sector, be sure to sign up for the weekly QMS newsletter by emailing info@qmsscotland.co.uk. Join us next time for more insights from experts, farmers and industry leaders. But until then, stay connected with us on our social channels and keep up with the latest news from Quality Meat Scotland.